start college, get your hammer. I graduated in 1990. I went back to Georgia State for 2.5 years to get a teacher certification in art education. And right at the end, I decided that I was probably not suited to be a teacher because I was going to be wearing inmate clothes if I did it. Maybe not for the students, but definitely for the parents. So anyhow, tonight I'm going to do a hollow form from a burl, but I want to leave the burl on the bottom. And the reason I do that was because when we were doing all these burls, you destroy the beautiful part of the wood. You know, this is the part that's the fun part. And we all want to put this on the lathe like this and carve that all out. And I thought, what a waste. Let's come up with something different. There are a million ways you can mount things. But the way that works for me is when I get this burl, they have these little peaks on them. You see the little peak, guys? All those little peaks are really spiky too, and you hate to touch them because sometimes they really hurt your fingers. What they do is when they get this burl off the tree, it has the bark on it, they use a pressure washer. And they pressure wash the outer bark off, and it leaves this nice, pretty finish. There are a couple of good wood dealers out there, and there are a couple that are not so good. So this is from Antlers Express on eBay. If you see Peggy 6899 bidding on something, I know who you are. It means I'm doing one for a demo somewhere. Please don't bid against me. There's another guy out there that sells burls in Oregon. He's a jerk. And you'll know when you look at the wood that it's molded and it's not pretty like this. See how clean this is? This guy really took the time to clean the bark off of this. And you can sit there forever and pick the bark, and it's just not worth it. You know, they have to dry for like 16 months till they're ready to turn. But these guys do a good job, and they almost always send good products. So just look at, whenever you buy anything, wood or anything online, look at the reviews. Because the thing about eBay is, the burl really is smaller than you think it is when you get it. You think it's this great big beautiful burl, and you get it and it's like this big.
Where is the place that you get yours?
Antlers Express, and they are in Oregon. I have a friend who lives in Oregon now, and I told her boyfriend last week, as he walks in the woods, I said, you see those bumps on the tree? Take your chainsaw. I'll pay the shipping. All right, so what I do is, in order to mount this, I have discovered that you can set it on the top of a belt sander just enough to get those sharp points off. What you're looking for is a flat spot to mount the piece. See, this doesn't wobble. It's almost like having a solid piece of wood under it, but you save something for later. So you put your screws in. You have to measure the screws so that you're not so far into the piece that you'd hit them when you go to hollow it. So you might have a bigger faceplate or a smaller one, but the trick is to get the flat spot. See, that doesn't wobble, and that's where you get in trouble. This one's done the same way. So does everybody get that? You stand there, and when you put it on there, step back and look when you set it down to see that you're level. And sometimes you get a piece that's got a bad spot on the side. You might need to tip it a little bit so that when you turn it, you turn the bad spot off. But just, it's all decision making. And the next thing you have to look at is the faults in the burl. This one has a little bit of a recess right in here. And so this part to me would be the part you could hollow without going through. And you have to kind of calculate for the depth there of the void. And sometimes you'll have an inclusion. And it's up to you as to whether or not you open that up when you hollow it out. You can leave it thicker, which when I put my finial on the end, nobody's going to get their finger in there. And if they want to bring their little pocket light and look up in there, well, okay. But it's up to you as to whether or not you go all the way into one of those inclusions and they can see in it or not. And this little guy comes undone. So if you have a bunch of them and you want to swap them out while you're working, all you have to do is just tighten this little fellow back up. And it's got a name on here. Some of this stuff I've had so long I don't remember where I got it. It says Peggy Schmid from, oh goodness, I can't read it. Reed Tool Company? Reed Tool and something. Anyway, it fits the 1 1/4 8, and you've got wrench marks for it. So if you're going to do a lot of production of these, you can put a whole bunch of them together. All right. I'm not used to this lathe. I have a Powermatic at home. It's an old girl. She's
Your
about
old
a million years old.
Your old girl was sick too, wasn't she?
She was sick. My poor old Powermatic, she's a 3520A. And I bought it at the Orlando Symposium in 2002, I think. A long time ago. Nick Cook was getting me a Powermatic, and I was at the symposium, and the guy had the sale, and Nick said, go over there and talk to that guy and get the lathe. And I walked up to the guy, and just as I did, this little woman walked in front of me. And she said, my husband really wants that lathe. He's just got his heart set on it. And I was listening, and I said, oh man, I can't take that lathe away from that sweet little fella. I didn't feel mean that day, but I should have. So I said, well, she can have it. Because he had one. That's all he had was one. You know, $2,100 for a brand new Powermatic back then. Because the B just had come out, so they dropped the prices on the A's. Well, I went on into the showroom where all the demonstrators were, where Hans Wiesvlog was demonstrating like the first time ever at that symposium, and his English was awful. But I walked around for a little while, and then the fellow that was the salesman caught up with me. He said, I've got another one at the shop. I'll sell it to you. I said, for the same price? He said, yes, ma'am. Well, then the dilemma was how to get it to my house, because they were going to drop it in Woodstock, and I live in Cumming. And I said, well, how can we pick this up? And I thought, well, a piano mover, you know, $450 to move that from there. So I finally called my car guy, and I said, what do y'all do with heavy stuff that's not a car? He said, we get that wrecker that's the lift guy, and we load it on that, and we bring it. So this fellow drove it all the way around my yard on my new sod, and we backed it up to the basement door, and he and I wrenched that thing off the truck. And it got in about 15 feet, and it didn't move until 10 years ago when I finished my basement. And I've had that lathe all those years, and this year it got sick. The VFD controller blew out on it. I went out of town, I unplugged it. That was my first mistake. I thought, I'll unplug this, we'll have a storm, it'll blow up if I don't. So I unplugged it, came back, plugged it back in, nothing happened. Checked the breaker, nothing happened. Got the voltage thing, checked the switch, it was fine. So I had to put on a new VFD controller, Automation Direct, $230. Still working good. So anyway, let's turn some wood. That's what y'all came to see. This is all mounted up. I put it on the belt sander the same way, flattened it out, and now we want to try to design it and hollow it. I like to have kind of wings out here. There's going to be, one of these had a little faulty place in it. There's one little piece of wood there, and it'll fly off about the time I get going. All right, so this one you.
Turn to the right and then push the button.
And press the button.
Stand up on your foot.
Stand on one foot. It takes a minute, doesn't it? Stand on one foot. It's got a little delay. All right, when you got an uneven surface out there, take your bowl down, come back, and listen for it to start making noise. That's the end. And I'm a little low on my tool wrist.
Here's your lamp.
Yeah, I might need some light. I thought I had this up a minute ago. same thing again, so you gotta figure out where you're at. I'm taking really light cuts. You see that's a little thicker down there? So when you get a thick cut and you want to fight it, I don't want to fight it. I'll tap it. So now you've got a flat surface. This is going to be hard for me to remember to do that every time. So I got a flat surface. I want to make some wings, and I want to make some place that I'm going to hollow. And every burl is different, so just think about what it's going to look like when you get through. The screws are going to go in to right here. So whatever shape I make needs to stop about right there. And leave the screws where they're in the wall instead of in the hollow part. Is that me breathing? It is, isn't it?
No, I think it's just moving around.
It makes the demo go so much better. Airplane mode. It's a propeller. When you cut layers like that, don't let your tool go back into the one you just cut before, it'll grab it. So go back to get rid of it. It's a burl, direction does not matter. I do, however, need to zip this up just a little bit more. Let's see where the screws are. So it's right there. I was a pretty good judge of that. Is it gonna move? No? I would have to press it. Too many operations. I'm getting old. I can't remember all this stuff. When you're pruning and you're getting marks in your wood, you see how easy I'm going with this? I'm not trying to be super fast or super deep on my cuts. I'm doing steady cuts. I'm letting the wood come to my tool. I'm not trying to go past it. A lot of times what we do is we fight the wood. And the wood will tell you really quickly it doesn't like that. And when little pieces start flying, you'll know you really did mess up. Look and see about how deep my screws go up in there. These are not incredibly long. I've got another, about a ½ inch I can go deeper. The screws I use are stainless steel, and they're marine quality because they're harder. But the reason I use stainless is if there's moisture in the wood, they don't rust in place. See, when the tool fights you, back off and take a lesser cut. And she's doing it for two reasons. One is because I'm out over the tool rest quite a bit, which I have to be because there's a wing out. Let's see if I can get it a little better without hitting. Yeah. And the other is it's beginning to get a little bit dull. Is that right, Steve?
Right.
And I don't know why that's getting so dull, but it's not going to be for long. Because this is a magic tool. See, this is what you do for a demo, so you don't have to sharpen in the middle. Well, a telephone costs you 25 bucks. Watch it be mine. See, wasn't that easy?
That was a
You
quick-
didn't have to watch me sharpen anything.
Quickest sharpen I've seen.
This is still.
You want it off?
No, that's not your shoulder out. So when you get to that edge right there, you know what you're gonna do. You catch it.
Yep.
All right, let's look at this. That's kind of cool to hit the button every time.
It's pretty.
So this has got just a little marking in it, so I just want to even that out, make sure it's nice and smooth. So 11, 13, 15, 11. All right, let's go back here again. There's that weird piece that will fall off. Let's go try it. Now we'll get the detail down. I just brought that easy tool for fun, just to give you a hard time. Anytime the cut starts fighting you, just back off. It doesn't matter if you take 10 cuts or one. Take it easy on that. Let the tool do the work. See how sharp that is? And I want to drill this out. And in order to do that, I've got to have a little recess right there. I don't like that. I've got a Forstner bit. And anytime you drill, just give yourself a place for the point to go of the drill bit or the, the spike on the Forstner. That way it tracks where you want it to. I don't like to use it as a scraper, but that delay bothers me. It sneaks up on me. I'm not prepared for it. I thought about it, I'd have brought a scraper and really messed up. I got a skew, I could do that. All right, that got most of that off. It still doesn't feel good. Sometimes you get a spot in the wood that makes it bounce. Let me try this. Fight with it a little bit. Trying to get it smooth enough so we don't have to sand much. Y'all don't sand at this one, do you? Can't wet your sand here? See, there's one little spot right there that's just messing. Dang, nabbit.
Don't you get some weird grain, maybe with earth?
That's what happens. You get some weird little bark places there, like the little bird's eyes, and they'll make you have a bounce.
Hard spot?
Soft, hard, soft, hard. There you go. Who knows?
It's not typical wood.
No, it's not. So all the roots kind of go out the table. You gotta just make it work. That's not too bad. It could be better. Oh. I'm gonna put up some magnified spectacles. I'm gonna figure out about how deep that is. This is my measuring gauge. And remember, I've got to compensate for that little spot, so I'm going to say right there, that's really precise. Keep looking at it, don't move your eyes. A little bit less for good measure. You know, want to go through the bottom of a burl, I'd have to mount that other one. Okay. You know, that's some engineer that thought that was a good idea. We'll do all these extra things for you so you have to work harder. I leave mine on all the time. And they said, you shouldn't do that. I said, let me tell you something. That controller lasted me 22 years. And I never had any problems with it. Uh-oh. Of course, now I have problems with my hands getting things tight. Let's try this again.
What kind of speed you run?
It says 190. Now, you know, if you push these things too hard, they become a part of your piece, right? The Forstner bit becomes permanently attached. Why is that? Because the wood is wet and there's sap. And it becomes concrete glue when you get that Forstner bit down in there.
She'll go in now, it works pretty good.
And you can go to the end of the way. All right. I don't like that bit. I brought my Elder Pierce purchase bit too. There was a fellow in LJ, Dr. Elder Pierce. And he taught me into this bit, maxi cut bit, about $115 worth of crap. But I bought it because everybody said I had to have it. It's like that one more tool you have to buy.
And he was dancing after you bought it.
I think he got a commission. I really think he got a
It cost
commission.
him $5.
You know, he's like, yeah, we'll get Peg, she'll get it. She's the woman, she'll buy it. She'll fall for that story. Big difference though, isn't it? That Harbor Freight guy. Oh, you know how you stop the noise? You carry a little piece of wax with you. Because when it gets hot, see, when the bit gets hot, you spill a wax on there. It doesn't hurt your wood.
Most of them just turn down their hearing aids.
know, but
What?
what was that you said? Were you talking to me? Let's not go too far with this, okay? Because I didn't measure. I guess I should, huh? I might be getting close to down there. Let's see.
You know you've gone too deep and you hit level.
Yeah, when I hear those screws going,
It'd be a beautiful
When
fall.
wax doesn't get rid of the screeching?
yeah, the screech gets louder and louder. You know, you're supposed to have fun with this. We do this for fun.
Yes.
We don't do it for money. Just be real clear. If you thought you were going to make money as a woodturner, ha ha ha. Right about there.
was therapeutic.
Well, you know what? This is the best way in the world to keep you out of trouble. It keeps you out of the bars. Of course, your doctor said you couldn't go there anyway.
Behind every full-time woodturner, there's a spouse with a good job and insurance.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Let's see how close I am. I bet I'm there. Yeah, but lots of good insurance. My goodness. Mine keeps changing. Come on. Doesn't want to go now. That sap's gone up in that wood. I'm trying to drag this out for y'all so it'd make a really good long-term demonstration.
You're getting paid by the minute, aren't you?
Yeah.
So far, you're.
Don't we all? Okay, now hold your breath. You start seeing little pieces flying out, you know you went too far. That's the sign that your bow's getting a little thin. We're gonna call that good enough. How's that?
Just a little bit more.
No. One more cut. One more cut. Y'all do that every time. See, you have to be patient if you're going to be a woodturner. You better learn to be patient. Now that bit did work, and my friend swore that it wouldn't get stuck. If it does get stuck, get your drill and some drill bits, and go in there and start drilling down around it, and you will get it out. About an hour later.
Either that or it'll make a nice kind of.
It's decorative art. It's it's a way to mount it. You can hold it on a pedestal or something with this. $110 or $15, whatever it was. Okay, so now we've got a spot in here. I have to put my face shield back on. I say AW likes it that way. This is a shallow fluted spindle gouge. It's a Doug Thompson. This retired guy that plays golf all the time down in Florida, watches the alligators. You know who Doug Thompson is, right? Thompson Tools. I still have Jerry Glazer tools. So when you want to hollow something, try not to give yourself a shoulder way up in there. You got to find how to hollow out. Give yourself a nice clean shape so that you can go in and get the wood out. Can you still see on the camera that I froze it out?
We can see that one.
Can you see? Oh, you can't see around me because I'm left-handed.
You're fine.
I'm a southpaw. What can I say? I'm keeping this tool with a little bit of an angle instead of trying to be just flat, because then it grabs like this, it pulls on your hand, so this is more of a slicing cut. That's my story. Don't you look at some video and somebody else tells you something different. Because if you look at 7 videos on YouTube that are not AEW videos, you're going to get 7 different stories. I try to remember that I'm holding my mouth weird and open. Just ignore it. Usually the face shield glares enough so you can't see it. The only person that can see is me when I watch the video. Was it Alan Lisa that used to do a holophone as a demo? Was it Alan Lisa that had, you don't remember, do you? Oh, this old age is terrible, isn't it? One fellow had some gavels named after him. Craft Supply had them. And they were like this. This is so shallow. See, this barely has any flute to it. And it's ground at about 85 degrees. Somewhere somebody will tell you that's a big no-no. You did not hear that from me. I'm saying that whatever works for it. If it works for me, it's fine. If it doesn't work for you, I'm sorry. We talk about muscle memory. You have different muscles than I have. So you know you don't want to see little chips coming out the sidewall now, right? So every once in a while, you do have to stop and do the finger test. And it's pretty thick still, but it can take one more cut and that's going to be it. One more cut. One more cut. You see that pretty good coming out of there. Alright, let's do this real quick. Somebody's going to try to put their finger in at some point. And they're going to do it, so let's see if we can get that smooth inside. And if they try to do that, just grab it away from them real quick, break their finger and walk away. That's gooder.
That's what you do with the extra points on that burl, is glue them in there.
Yeah, yeah. Put the points in the burl inside, you know, when they stick there, or needles. Needles work good too. So, you know, that was a disposal box for needles. It's got one hump in there. You know it would.
One more time.
One more time. Come on, press the start button. Stand back, let this sucker fly up. I don't like to turn it that fast when it's got screws holding up. Sometimes you can't tell for the sawdust. Turn it down. Finger test.
Just right.
It's good except for the center. Got a little nipple in there and I'm having a hard time catching it. Come on, bad boy, come out of there. Go to the other side of the leg. You kind of have to lift up to get it. There it goes. Almost done. Okay. All right, that's good enough. That'll get her done. I'm not gonna sand very much. Okay, I bought this from Woodcraft. They come in full sheets. They have this grit with sandpaper on the back. It's from Festool. I think they're 50 cents a sheet.
That's correct.
I think it's 50 cents a sheet. And I cut them in half, and so I have a variety. Probably won't have what I need. There's a 240. I wish I could have started with something better, but there's a spot over here that just does not want to be nice. If I was at home, I have a power sander. I just knock that real quick, and I'm going to leave this unfinished so you guys can have it, and some person who likes to sand can sand it, where they're not at the senior center. When you do sand, you don't have to go really fast, but you know you got a wing out there, okay? And I don't have any Band-Aids, so let's be good. Sand in a circle. Don't hold it right there. If you're in a line, you'll just make the line bigger. Sand in a circle. That knocks the edges off the top and brings it down even with the rest of the wood. Move your paper around occasionally, because you're loading up your sandpaper with all the dust. And sanding dust does not work. And when you get your sandpaper loaded with dust, you go to Walmart in the cleaning section. That's that part that a lot of us don't like to have to go into, but they have a generic brand of a magic rub eraser, and it's called Miracle Eraser. And it comes in a sheet like a sponge. It's the same size as a sponge, and a butcher knife will cut them into these nice little pieces. And when you have sandpaper that's loaded up with stuff, that takes it out. So you're not sanding your sawdust anymore. So just go in a circle. How much time do we have, by the way? I usually get these done in about the right amount of time.
6 more minutes.
There's one in every crowd. He's just doing that because he knows he can.
We got
You know,
whatever,
they all mess with me.
we got what time you need.
Yeah, I know. No, y'all missed the shows. What's on tonight? This is Thursday night. We might be missing something good. Is it good?
The president speaking.
Have you watched Resident Alien on Netflix yet?
No.
Oh my God, that is so funny. My friend said, I don't like sci-fi. I said, fine, this is a really funny show. I said, it's not just about aliens, it's not scary, and nothing's gonna jump out of Sigourney Weaver's belly. Although there is a little baby alien. Remember the little baby? It is funny. This guy that plays this man, he has turned himself into a human in more ways than he knew. And this little baby comes along, and he's absolutely enamored with the baby, and he's not supposed to be. Babies on their planet, they have 300 at a time, and they try to survive in some desert somewhere. See, I've got lines right there. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Somebody, when they take this home, send those lines out of there.
I'll zoom in where they
Okay?
can see them.
Don't zoom in where you can see them. So you go open your sandpaper. I don't want to sand forever. All right, so we've basically got a piece that's hollowed out. And now we've got to figure out what insert we're going to put in it. And I just happen to have a couple that I brought with me. Right behind Tim over here. This is my magic box. When I don't have anything else to do, I make inserts. They're threaded. See, this is the special box.
Ooh, you can leave that here.
I hear you. And so you want to look at the piece and put an insert there and kind of see which one optically looks the best, whether it's too tall, too short, too fat, too skinny. What do you think? That one?
Yeah, that looks
That's pretty.
That one? Even taller, wrong color? Wrong color.
Wrong color.
Yep. All right. This guy? No, you like this one?
Yeah,
This one right here.
the short one, yeah.
That one. All right, that it is.
You notice how she took that on the other side of the room. She thought I was gonna carry it
My
to the
mama
truck.
didn't raise a finger.
She bet you can.
Are you having a good time?
Yeah.
Did you learn anything?
Yes.
All right, so for all the engineers out there, make sure you get to the fattest part, okay? And then tighten this down and watch to make sure it doesn't move. So we're just, if you really, you could turn it on, but you see that it's just a hair that has to go in there. Just one more little cut. Guess what I'm gonna use?
Oh, no,
Yes.
no, the kiss of death.
Your favorite tool.
The skew.
You know why I'm gonna use it? Because it works. When you do these, you'll probably have a few little marks where you messed up. And they'll have little nicks and crannies. Not quite, just a little more. It's better to make 10 cuts, little cuts.
Too small, too small, too big.
Too big, too big. It won't fit now. Go around the skating rink 3 times. I mean, that's a minuscule cut. Okay,
Just right.
this is it. This is
That's it.
Dang, dang,
It's not too big yet.
so far.
Not so bad.
Oh, I have to press the button to. Okay now. You behave. All right. It's got some dust right there. I gotta see that little point.
How about that?
So it goes right on in. And one other thing I want to do, since I have now gotten that to fit, I want to make it come down just a little bit. I always end up with a lot of tools on the bed of my lathe so that when they fall, they get my feet. Y'all do that too, right? I thought it was just something I did. Here it goes, airplane mode again. I just want to flatten this out just a little. And when I made it, I cut it a little bit up on the curve. I undercut it just a little, so I went downhill. Okay. It's still not exactly right. It's got to be perfect. One more cut. Just wanted to be a little tight, and I don't like that, because I've got epoxy. Okay, there you go. So, we have gotten that to fit. That little thin wing that's out there that goes on the top, you'll drop that on the floor when you're polishing it or something, and the whole side of it will come off. And then you're like, I know that bad word and I'm gonna say it. My daughter is so conscious of not saying bad words, she asked permission. She said, Mom, can I say that word? I said, if you really need to, go ahead. We pulled out the other day in front of somebody. He was mad. He was coming up a blind ridge, and I didn't see him until he was right on top of him. He was doing 70 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour zone. And I thought when I saw him, I had plenty of time. So he winged around me with his middle finger in the air. She was in the car with me. Not a good thing. I bit my tongue. I have a whole little box of screws. And some are longer and some are shorter. And the reason some are shorter is because sometimes it gets into the meat of the burl and sometimes it doesn't. This is the fun part. The turning was just gravy. So I told you, I flattened all those little peaks and valleys. And this one had a couple of really good peaks and valleys that got flattened. Can you see okay?
Yes.
Right there. And this is a master carver. And it's what Dixie Biggs likes to use. And that's where I learned about it in the very beginning of my career in this wood turning stuff when Dixie did one of her first demonstrations. And I believe that might have been at Orlando too, because she was new. And I think her word was actually. We get stuck on a word sometimes and we can't quit saying it. When you're a demonstrator, you know, don't you know? My grandmother would say, don't you know? And I'm like, I do know, but why do you keep saying that? Okay. So we're cheating. We have just become an artist.
Three cavities.
I will send your certificate to you when you get this done. It will say, my friend says I went to the Peggy Schmid School of Painting. We used to work on the weekends to paint houses in downtown Atlanta. And I used to say most of them were better suited to dynamite. Because, you know, there's a lot of old houses over in Inman Park. And a lot of people, when they got them, they thought they had the jewel of the Nile. And I'm like, honey, you got the cesspool. You did not get the jewel. I had one lady whose house had a beam that was rotted all the way through the center, and I'm like, lady, did you not have this inspected? Well, I did, but the termites got to it. Well, they really got to it. They had a feast. It was a Christmas dinner at her house. Come eat the beam. Well, I had to replace the beam, and there was like 3 inches of crawl space. So we spent a week digging the basement trench out to get to it, and another week taking all the hardwood floors and the subflooring out of the top to get it in there. That cost her. I'm never doing that again. Never, never. Unless I'm digging myself out of somebody's basement. I felt like one of those prisoners walking out with a bucket, you know, emptying it in the yard where the guard doesn't see that you're making the tunnel under your bed. That's just a little aside story while I do this silliness. What I'm doing is I'm repointing these. Does that sound logical? I'm going to repoint them so that you don't see that I did something to them in the beginning. And this little piece cuts pretty good, but it's too fat to really make it go back to looking right. But I have smaller ones, and I have pointy ones. And you too can have them on Amazon the next day when you order them. But the hard part is opening the boxes. See, we have some that are pointy, really pointy. That would dig in a little bit, I think, and catch. So you don't want to do that one. But this one right here is a little rounded on the top. And it'll give us enough play where we can make that cone come back up. And the best part about the master carver is that you don't have to have any other wrenches to put the piece in. So you open it, the piece goes in, put it back in, you shut it, it locks down, it's solid. Saves you about 10,000 hours when you're carving something. And you don't think about it, but you've been sitting at your workbench for 3 days carving something and finding that little wrench that fell on the floor and all that sawdust while you were working. And you got to put the pin in there and the wrench with the Dremel. and it's just a fight to the finish. And you don't want to do that, I promise you. Another little trick, when you have wood that's just a little different color, because this is fresh wood and the others had a little time to age, take a tea bag and you know, you can save one you use because it's still got tea color in it, and just dab it on the wood, and that's enough color usually to age wood. You didn't know that, did you? See, I have a degree in fine art. And that and about $1.50 will get me a cup of coffee. But it looks good on the wall. It looks good on the wall.
Why not a cup of tea?
Well, I do tea too. I like tea at night. I like to come in the afternoon and sit down with a hot cup of tea and take my practice nap for evening. Usually the tea's cold by the time I drink it, because I practice nap for an hour or so. You know, this old age is fun. You do get random naps. It's like being a baby all over again. You know, you get to get all snuggled up and warm in the afternoons, and you're thinking, what's for dinner? And the next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock and the news is on. And then the good part of the evening starts with Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. I actually answer 1 or 2 questions now, because it's about something that maybe happened in the 70s or 80s. Okay, so I can really make this perfect, and I'm not going to, but I'm giving you the idea that you reshape it, and that's all you have to do is reshape it, and then just color it a little bit. You can also use artist inks. There's a really cool assortment of artist inks. It's called drawing ink, and you can buy that on Amazon for $19, and it has a multitude of colors that you can use in wood turning. I don't even know the brand name, but it's a little box about this big, and it's got little bottles of ink, and it's called drawing ink for $20, and you mix it with alcohol. So you thin it with alcohol, and you can use it on your projects where you want to have a background color or something. A lot of times I use metal paints on top, and I use an ink underneath to give it a color. And for $20, you know, nobody hit you up at a symposium for a lot of money for something like that reactive paint that I bought that dried out the second day. I opened it up the other day. It was just mud. It had turned, I had not used it, and it was just goopy. So I thought, well, what am I gonna thin this with? This is that bad spot in the wood that they didn't get clean. You'll get a few of those, and what works best, I've got on glasses, right, are wire brushes. The little wire guys, when you need to clean up these burls. You don't want to go too fast with it now, okay? Don't sling these things. They become projectile swords.
Have you ever heard anybody using like a blasting machine with the?
Yeah, the little beads. You can do that.
Not the beads. You can buy the walnut shell.
And you can use baking soda.
Yes, baking soda.
Baking soda. That's the safest now. Didn't they go from the beads to baking soda?
Yeah.
See, this gets a lot of those little hairs that form, because this is little fibers of wood. This will get a lot of it out. It will also recolor some of it because it puts the metal color back on your wood, and it's not as obvious. I mean, you can see this because I really didn't take a lot of time with it, but sometimes there's little pieces of bark left that you want to get off, and this works really good, but we're not going to do it perfect, okay? All right, so we have one other thing we've got to do something to, and that is the little places that we put the screws in. Sometimes something gets left on the counter. Let's do this one. This will work. Okay. So one thing you have to do when you got a screw hole is just round this so it's a sphere. Weapons. I was going to tell you about those mixers there. We were all sitting around at the Atlanta Symposium in 2016 at the bar, and I ordered a Kahlua and cream, and I got a glass of Kahlua with no cream. And I said, but I need cream. So they brought me about this much. And I said, I need that about 6 more times. Finally, I could almost drink it. It was so strong that I could almost drink it. I gotta get a knife over here. Of course, we all had a little bit too much to drink that night. I never do that now. I'm too old for that silliness. And I needed something to mix the epoxy with, and the Starbucks was closed. I still have that 6, all these years later. So I don't use them that often. What I'm doing here is I'm just gonna take and mark this. Oh, now I need something to tap it in with. Jeez.
Chair
Wake up,
exercises.
Steve. Piece of ebony board. So the holes where the screws came out, this will go back in there. I broke it all the way off. Is that the hole? Yeah. That was a little bigger than I expected. You put a drop of CA in there, and it'll stay. And then you do a little carving. Have my own time. Am I going over? We good?
You're good.
I'm gonna look and see if I got a little fatter piece, because I think those screw holes are bigger than I thought they were. That one's okay. That was too big. You get the idea, right?
Yes.
Okay. The skewers for shish kebabs, you can buy at the grocery store, and they're not as expensive as these 88-cent pieces of rod. You know, they get a whole pack of 100 in a pack for $2. They work, yeah, they work great. So if you have a friend and you want to share them, it'd be like me, you'll have those little sticks for 100 million years. So just put a little CA glue on it to hold it in place. It'll saturate. This is Parfix. This is Mark Soleil's surgical CA. Let it dry. Take your little bit again. This one's fatter. Yes. You were gonna stay in there. You were gonna stay. So you got the idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that gets away from you, it's gonna hurt. And they do get away occasionally. They also get a little dull sometimes. Am I freaking you out? Okay, so you got the hole covered. You can reshape it, and it'll go in there. Then you've got your little piece right here. It goes on the top. And one thing that you do when you put an insert in something, you can take this down a little bit more so it sits in there more if you want to. I'm going to leave it like it is, because if I could mess it up, I probably would. And I don't want to put the screws back in and put it on the lathe. This is Quick Cure 15. It's a 2-part epoxy. When you use an epoxy to put an insert in, if something goes wrong, you can heat it with a hairdryer and take it back out. If you put it in with Parfix, you cannot. So you pick. Like if you've made a nice urn and you put your threaded piece in there, put it in with epoxy, so that if something goes wrong, you can get it back out of there. So that's what these little stir sticks are for. These are the tops to the stuff, fruitcake stuff. This is the green cherries for fruitcake. I have one friend who loves fruitcake. but she loads it up with bourbon at Christmas and it eats it about March.
Throws out the fruitcake and drinks the drink.
Yeah, I make her a fruitcake every year. I didn't make the one this year. This was the only year I didn't make fruitcake for her. Because I couldn't get pecans. I mean, they had pecans, but Sam's usually has them and I'm kind of cheap. And they have a big 2-pound bag for $12 and they're shelled and I don't have to do anything except put it in the recipe. They didn't have them. They have walnuts, no pecans. So 2 parts, equal parts, the stir stick that I stole. Y'all gonna tell them at the whatever Regency or hotel we were at that I stole these from Starbucks. One day the Starbucks police is gonna come get me. I stole tape measures from IKEA too. They have paper tape measures. You know, when you're making a hollow form and you want to put lines in it all the way around, you wrap that tape measure, that paper tape measure all the way around that vessel, and you get a measurement, and then you take it and you fold it. And however many lines you want on it, you open it back up, put it back around the thing, and take your little pencil and mark everywhere you've got to fold. And it's even cuts all the way around. You don't have to do one bit of math. And if it's not perfect, oh well. Try again, get another
Tape measure.
So when I go into IKEA and you see me walking out with white streamers down my pocket, that's me stealing tape measures. They have them all over the furniture department at IKEA. So we don't want to put this on the threads, you think? You just want to put it underneath. If you get it on your fingers, I keep a bottle of acetone underneath my workbench. The fire department probably wouldn't like it, but hey, gets me unstuck from stuff all the time. So now the last thing you need to do is look at it, and it's threaded in there. So you want to look at how the little tip goes and decide where you want it. I think I want it at the longest point over here is the best design opportunity. What do you think? You good?
Yeah.
Okay, questions? We have to wait 15 minutes, but now I have to get that little bit that's over the edge off now, because it will look stupid when I have to cut it off. Wake up. I was turning a top one time, and the guy in the very back, there was a table all the way down, the guy in the very back was falling asleep. And I'd never had that top come out of the chuck before, till that day. And it bounced about 6 times before it landed in his chest. He was awake. All right, ask questions. Ask questions. You can get burls from Australia. They're pretty expensive. They're beautiful. Be careful about the dust in the wood. This is ebony and African blackwood, I think. I think both of those are ebony. I think the insert on that one's ebony as well. You know, get that stuff off of you, because you're going to get the dust on you when you sand it. And you don't want to be sick. And you don't want a sinus infection from this stuff. If you have anything that overflows, just get your acetone out, clean it off. This will stick in 15 minutes. If it doesn't, it's y'all's problem, not mine.
And then once it sets up, the piece will screw out, right?
Yeah, and when you store anything that has a threaded piece, leave it just a little bit loose. When you set it in your cabinets and stuff to look at it, don't lock it all the way down, because the expansion and contraction of the moisture in the wood can make them lock in place. And then you have to go get your hair dryer and take it out, and you'll probably crack the insert trying to get it out of there. So just leave them a little bit loose. Any kind of lid on a box that's threaded, just enough so that it's not locked down tight. Okay, guys, that's it.
What's a good burl to start with?
Maple.
Maple?
These are broadleaf maple burls from Oregon, and the maple is just soft enough to be easy to turn and finish. And then when you graduate, go with the Australian burls, mallee, coolibah, whatever else. They have red mallee, brown mallee, not so pretty mallee. If you get one, if you get a burl somewhere and you see a little sawdust on it, when you put it on the counter or something, it's gotten a little wood boring burl, a beetle, a little beetle in there. Put it in your freezer for a couple of days. Don't tell anybody, don't tell your wife or husband to put it in there. Tell them that's dinner for later. Freeze it for a couple of days and it'll kill the larva and the bug.
You can
We had one at John Campbell, or at Airmont. We did platters from this maple. And one of them, one morning, we came in, we saw sawdust on the counter. Nobody knew at Airmont that their freezer had had a burl in it overnight for 2 nights.
Can't you put it in the oven a little while too, about 110?
You know, I'm kind of afraid of the oven because when you heat the wood, it tends to make it crack. It takes moisture out too fast.
For about 110? I mean, isn't that the reason?
Yeah. Well, they do kiln dry it, but they do it for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And this is air dried. So it expands and contracts differently. And we're in a different climate in the south than Oregon was. You know, Oregon's nice and lush and green. I have a friend that lives there next to a Boy Scout camp. And I told him last week, I said, if you see those bumps on the tree, I want them. I really want them.
Use your saw.
I was serious. I said, I pay money for these guys, you know. All right, y'all can go home now, but you got to do the raffle.
Thank you.
And I have one more stir stick left.